We all love Call of Duty and we all love Iceberg. Not liking these things is like not loving your own mother. But the problem with a lot of these Iceberg videos, and especially some of the Call of Duty ones, is they start off pretty boring. I don't want to hear about 3-lane map design, Kino der Toten, Misty's, Double D, Brawl size. When I watch an Iceberg video, I want to dive straight into it, no pun intended, into the waters right away. I want to learn about the stuff that sends shivers down my spine, and so that's why I've compiled a bunch of the darkest and creepiest Call of Duty theories, stories, glitches, conspiracies, and facts, starting off with some crazy stuff right away in tier 1 in order to create the most bizarre Call of Duty Iceberg ever assembled. This includes every single game mode spanning across all the different games, so please subscribe, leave a like. I had to make this thing from scratch and it kind of took a while, but without further ado, we're not wasting any time and we're getting straight into the darkness. Nova 6 is real. Nova 6 is a biochemical gas weapon that appears in a lot of COD games, and if you come into contact with no mask on, then you will die a horrible death. And the most popular version of this gas was in Black Ops 1, where in the campaign, your entire objective was to stop Dragovich and Kravchenko from activating the sleeper agents that would deploy Nova 6 across the United States and kill millions of civilians. We also see our boy Dimitri die from it, so yeah, it's dangerous. But there are rumors and deep buried documents that Nova 6 was actually a real weapon being developed by scientists near the end of World War II, and that it was actually tested inside of concentration camps. This is due to the fact that there was evidence to show that in these concentration camps there were other chemical weapons being used, with things such as sulfur and a variety of other materials also used in the Nova 6 gas. Pretty disturbing to think about that this could have been our reality. We just gotta thank Reznov for saving us. Hangar 18. A DLC map you may remember is Hangar 18 from Black Ops 1. It's a great map that takes place in a military compound, but it's actually based off a real life place. The name Hangar 18 was given to a military building that was said to contain UFO debris and alien bodies. The exact name Hangar 18 was popularized by Robert Spencer Carr, who went on a live radio interview and claimed that the hangar was located at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, Ohio. And apparently they were covering up evidence of UFOs and aliens here recovered from the Aztecs. He even got a surgical nurse to admit he had done an autopsy on an alien body. He also requested access to enter the base, but obviously was denied. So maybe Hangar 18 is more than just a cool DLC map. There might just be some aliens here. Transit Remastered controversy. Transit Remastered was an upcoming custom zombie map coming out for Black Ops 3 with a ton of hype around it. However, rumors started to swirl about a potential scam going on behind the scenes, because the people behind this map were Green Run Productions, which was secretly ran by a man named Danny, who was also the creator of the Water Park zombie map. But there hadn't been a single update on the map's development in over 3 months, and the creators had seemingly gone dark. But despite this, they kept their Patreon open, which had hundreds of members paying for things like early access and first looks into these custom zombie maps. And basically for 3 whole months, people were just losing their money into a void for nothing, and there were absolutely no updates going on. I mean, some of these tiers were some insane prices. Who's paying for this? It's possible some people paid over $2,000 in these 3 months with nothing in return. And this situation caught a lot of eyes about a month ago, which even saw Mr. T Lexified making a video talking about it, in which he says that the alleged scammer and zombie map maker Danny was going through some rough times, and so people leaked the Transit Remastered that Green Run Productions was making. Hadir is Al-Assad. This is a theory that Hadir from the Modern Warfare 2019 campaign is actually Khaled Al-Assad from Call of Duty 4. Some evidence alluding to this is the fact that Al-Assad's name translates to Immortal Lion, and the nickname given to Hadir by his father was My Little Lion.
My father called Hadir Shabal, his little lion.
Fucking no! But besides just the name, Hadir is the brother to Farah Karim, in which they are part of a group that is fighting against the Russians. But despite him loving his group and his family, Hadir thought their methods weren't extreme enough, so he decided to join a terrorist organization and steal chlorine gas like his 1945. But when Captain Price and this lady are speaking in this cutscene, they speak about how Viktor Zakayev from Call of Duty 4 wants Hadir alive. He wants to break Hadir out of prison, and he wants him alive because he's a big fan. And if we look at the information that was released when Al-Assad was added into Modern Warfare, it says Assad has an avowed hatred for Russia and no abiding allegiance to Zakayev, but the two share unanimous aim towards the demise of Western power and influence. Intelligence analysis have determined that Assad was unlawfully freed from prison by Zakayev and turned loose on the city of Verdansk, which is a description that matches perfectly with Hadir. He hates Russia and Western power, and he was unlawfully freed from prison by Zakayev. Nocturne Toten is real. The first ever zombie map was created in World at War being knocked there and Toten. It went on to be featured in Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Cold War, and more. But Knocked wasn't just a random place in the campaign or just a dumb zombie map made by a bored developer. It was actually a real life place, a Japanese Air HQ building on Peleliu Island. And what makes this absolutely insane is if we look at the map where this island and this building is, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. We can even see some photos of what Knocked looks like today, and it's just overgrown like some pubic hair with a bunch of trees and without a mystery box. But in game, it was relocated to Poland because it was supposed to be against German soldiers. Me and the boys are going to Knocked during Toten in real life for our next vacation, man. Let's go. Hopefully there's not any homeless people or something. Reznov is alive. A lot of people, including myself, have made videos on the past going over this unsolved mystery. But I'm here to tell you I 100% believe the Victor Reznov we know is still alive and the entire story as we know it is a lie. First off, stating the obvious, no one has ever physically seen Reznov dead, and we didn't see anything happen to him in our escape from Vorkuta. So we don't know if he survived or got captured or was killed since we never saw his body. However, what is really shocking are some of the emails we can find in the interrogation room. There's messages being sent from an anonymous user being John Trent to Jason Hudson. This email says, "You don't know me, but I know Alex Mason. You will learn to trust me. Everything changes on Friday." Another one says, "It was by the hand of Nikita Dragovich. Two escaped the breakout. You know one of them. The other one just died." And this is a reference to how Dragovich had brainwashed hundreds of sleeper agents and even Mason himself to set off the Nova 6 gas and to kill JFK. And speaking of him, the next email from John Trent is sent to President JFK, in which he says, "You have 1 day left. Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice." And the reason this has to be Reznov is because who else would know about the programming done by Dragovich to Mason if not Reznov himself? Perhaps more importantly than that, he says victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, which is of course the exact words Reznov says to Mason in Vorkuta.
Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, Mason. We Russians know this better than anyone.
And lastly, this email says, "Please tell Mason one last thing. This time, it's freedom for both of us." Obviously alluding to the freedom for you, Mason, not for me, Reznov says as his final words. There's also a crazy audio recording found in BO4 where Woods says Reznov never died in Vorkuta. I mean, this man was actually there. Sympathy for the devil. In the Black Ops 1 campaign mission crash site, we're sent on a boat to go investigate a craft ship that may contain some gas as well as Dragovich and Kravchenko. The jungle's got a lot of trees and a lot of water, so you have to take a boat through the river, and as you get on, you hear a man's voice coming from the radio.
Goes out to Sergeant Blundell and all our boys at the RPO. Go get 'em.
What will then happen is you will proceed to take part in one of the coolest moments ever as the song Sympathy for the Devil starts playing.
Heads up! Enemy camp ahead! On the left!
Okay, no more, man. I don't want to get copyrighted here. Also, I don't sympathize with the devil. I just want to say that. Bus Route B. We all know and love the map Transit. Well, at least I love the map Transit. But to traverse around the map, you gotta take the good old bus sitting in the back like I'm Rosa Parks. And on this bus, you go the same route every time to the same 5 places, being the bus depot, then diner, then farm, then power, then the town, then back to the diner. Yeah, we all know this. But there's actually a theory that there was supposed to be an alternate bus route, otherwise known as Bus Route B. However, the reason it was never added was due to the fact that the old gen consoles had limitations on them and the map would have been way too big, which is why they even added fog and denizens in the first place. Some people even say that Bus Route A is the blocked path in the tunnels, and Ted actually makes a statement about this, how we have to take an alternate route, which means we are actually on Bus Route B and Bus Route A is the one that's blocked off. We've been on Bus Route B the entire time. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Mr. C Lexify allegations. Perhaps the most recent entry on the Iceberg, this is talking about all the recent accusations made towards zombie YouTuber Mr. T Lexify. Lex was one of the most beloved COD creators out there, but that all took a dark turn when in July 2024 his ex-girlfriend would accuse him of all types of heinous crimes. And so the internet turned against him and things got ugly. It seemed like Mr. T Lexify was against a wall of hate. And to make things even worse, his best friends, the Smith Plays, would make a video on the situation stating how he's disgusted and no longer wants to be friends with Lex. So Mr. T Lexify would would then release a video that would get 1 million views in a day where he would expose his crazy ex-girlfriend. It was clear he wasn't a perfect person and definitely did some things he shouldn't have done, but he wasn't exactly the monster he was painted out to be. And then Lex in the same video would just crash out and go on to expose Noah J456 for cheating on his wife with another streamer, as well as saying JC Backfire was touching his girl's sister. I mean, what? But Noah J456 also made a video a few days ago talking about how JC Backfire didn't actually do this and Mr. Selexify lied, and yeah. So their friendship is over and the COD Zombies community is probably dead. Shangri-La is on Mars. Perhaps the most ancient COD Zombies theory, which is that the map Shangri-La actually takes place on Mars. This gained a lot of traction back in the early days. However, it was dismissed through time and was just seen as a dumb conspiracy. But with new maps and Easter eggs being found, many people believe Shangri-La is without a doubt on Mars, except it's only on Mars some of the time. For example, in Dr. Totem, there's an Easter egg in which you can use a flogger into the lake and later swim out the other side, where you will then see the planet Mars while Shangri-La music plays in the background. So therefore, people have theorized that Dr. Totem takes place on one of Mars' moons. But then again, in game, there was a map which stated Shangri-La was in the Himalayas, and I mean, if it was on Mars, wouldn't we have to wear a helmet like we do on Moon? But the theory states that Shangri-La is on Mars sometimes because when you do the Easter egg and see the moon in the eclipse, it's completely different than the one we see normally. It doesn't look like the moon in the sky we see from our planet, and they went out of their way to create the moon a different shape rather than just using the same moon from the other maps in the game. And if we look at the Shangri-La loading screen, we can see the black sun, and it's theorized in this book that billions of years ago, people lived on Mars and they used to have water in it. So maybe the eclipse sends us back to a time where Mars was breathable and able to have human life. But yeah, I don't know. Menendez has CIA documents. Throughout most of Black Ops 2, our main objective is to track down Raul Menendez. But there was actually a mole in the CIA because something fishy was going on the whole time and our characters knew it. Firstly, when we interrogate Kravchenko in Afghanistan, he'll tell us that Menendez even has people in the CIA. Then later in the game, when we raid Menendez's compound, if we kill his gang in the drug labs fast enough, we will find CIA documents.
What the fuck? CIA?
And so if we do all this, then we will hear Menendez and Woods say this when we go to take down Noriega.
Escort him as PC to alternate location for prisoner exchange. More to follow.
Precious cargo my ass.
Nexus target? Who's more important than this asshole?
I don't like it either, but let's just get this done. We're burning too much time.
He even has people in the CIA.
Fucking Kravchenko. Remember what he said in Afghanistan?
What about the CIA memo in Menendez's compound? There's something else going on here, Woods.
But when we get to Noriega, Hudson tells us to do a prisoner exchange, even though we have the biggest drug trafficker in the entire world. Who else would be more important than him? Hudson also isn't being himself and he's not responding when we try to talk to him. And then we eventually find out that the Nexus target was in fact not Menendez. Hudson was just trying to protect Mason's son because Menendez said that he'll kill David if Hudson doesn't do this. So he isn't a bad guy. He was just in an unfortunate situation that wasn't gonna have any good outcomes. Pedos and Samantha. Now, while making this video, I came across a few Reddit posts that talked about one of the developers at Treyarch allegedly being fired for, let's just say, rubbing his hot dog into the Samantha character model in Black Ops 1. And these claims were made back in 2011, and it was a post that had like 6 likes. I don't even know how I got to it, but I searched around and I didn't find much evidence of this at all, and I also couldn't find the original post I had come across. But basically, your Treyarch employee was caught being a weirdo to Samantha and then fired. This story honestly sounds so bizarre, I think it was probably just a 4chan troll or something. I mean, the #1 subreddit in 2008 was r/jailbait, which is basically just provocative pictures of underage, yeah, you get the rest, Crosby family. In Black Ops 1, you can find a man panicking for his life with the radio in a Vietnam campaign mission.
Pull it together and give me that radio.
What are you, SOG?
Just give me the radio.
Good luck with that shit.
And we can see the man's name is Sergeant Crosby, but this guy actually has a family member who was still fighting in the military until 2025 in Black Ops 2. Yes, our boy, the other Crosby, whose most notable appearance was in the mission Solarium, where he teaches us how to fly, and he actually did have some voice lines here.
His followers sure did. And what does Cordis do you mean exactly?
It's Latin. Hard day, some shit like that.
Sounds like something noble.
But besides that, he doesn't talk much the rest of the game and just kind of tags along. It makes me think that they were originally planning to have him be a cool side character, especially due to the fact that if Harper dies in your playthrough, it becomes incredibly dull without him. However, a lot of people say that it's just a coincidence and that the Crosby name across both games is just whatever, there's no correlation. But the man who named the Crosbys came out and confirmed it wasn't just some coincidence, but rather that they did it on purpose for our Crosby boys, the Avogadro. In transit, when you turn on the power, you can see an electric man with red crosshairs, and he goes by the name Avogadro. Every so often, he'll show up, and the only way to get rid of him is by knifing him or using galvanuckles. Apparently, this man's name was Cornelius Purnell, who was obsessed with finding Agartha. However, too much exposure to Element 115 had him turn into whatever the flip he is now. And so he spends the rest of his days just haunting you on transit and just being annoying and being stupid. But it's now time to move a little deeper and touch our toes in this ice cold water, baby. Tier 2, here we are. JFK Alex Mason conspiracy. This is a theory that Alex Mason was the one that killed President John F. Kennedy. In game, when we first meet him, Mason has a hallucination and pulls out the strap on him, but it wasn't here when we actually shot him. You see, there's multiple details pointing to the fact that Mason was the one who assassinated him. JFK died on November 22nd, 1963, and the lone gunman was presumably Lee Harvey Oswald. However, at the end of the game, we hear Dragovich say this.
It's like to turn me against my own. It's like to make me kill my own president. Right?
What actually happened was that Lee Harvey Oswald was there and he was a shooter, but Alex Mason was also there as seen by this cutscene at the end of the game. So we know Mason was 100% confirmed to be there, and we have this whole cutscene of Mason going through the way JFK died that day. He even mentions the caliber of bullets that were used on JFK. And in the back of the TVs, when we meet John F. Kennedy, Oswald also appears, and we are having a revelation near the end of the game. Mason will scream. So yeah, Mason and Oswald killed JFK, but they didn't get in trouble because the CIA was actually the one who wanted the president dead. And then Lee Harvey Oswald was silenced so that he wouldn't snitch. Turns out the CIA was behind everything. Black Ops 3 alternate campaign. Many people may not know this, but in the Black Ops 3 campaign, which is probably the worst story ever, there's actually a different version of it called Nightmare Mode, where you can play through the whole thing while the enemies are zombies. It's honestly kind of terrifying, and especially in the missions that take place at night, I was peeing my pants. It is also slightly different, and it tells a new story than the one in the normal mode, but I don't think I could ever actually play the entire thing. I mean, Black Ops 3 is already trash, and then you turn on Nightmare Mode, it's like, who's gonna actually play this? The labs. It's appeared in a few different games, and it's pretty disturbing. The labs are in some facilities, such as the one in 5, which is underneath the Pentagon, and there's also one at Rebirth Island. But here, they're not just doing 4th grade science experiments. We can see mutated pigs, human corpses with their stomachs open, some weird heads. Who knows what type of experiments they were running on these people, because all their bodies look absolutely dull and horrifying. There's also some short clips released by Activision where they do some experiments on zombies in the labs. Cortis Dia YouTube channel. In Black Ops 2, Menendez has multiple videos and is even live streaming on YouTube. I mean, if we're being real, I would watch Menendez stream every day. Imagine him going off with like Kai Cenat or something. Okay, Cortis Dia is the name of Menendez revolt against the government, and it means Judgment Day in Spanish. However, there's actually a YouTube channel named Cortis Dia with only one video on it titled New World. It has 450,000 views and it's 8 seconds long, but that's literally it, and there's nothing else to this channel. And the day this video was posted is July 9th, 2012, which is 4 whole months before Black Ops 2 was even released. So this was probably a deeply hidden teaser that Activision released a long time ago. Take a listen.
Come, my friends. 'Tis not too late to seek a newer world.
Satan controls the zombies. This is a theory that states how the devil controls the zombies in Call of Duty. For example, on Mom of the Dead, there's some clear evidence pointing to this. It's thought that every time the zombies switch eye colors, something else is controlling them. For example, in Black Ops 2, Richtofen is the one controlling them, and then in Black Ops 1 and World at War, it's Samantha controlling them. But in Mob of the Dead, the eyes are red, and no one has ever been able to confirm exactly who this entity was controlling them. The red eyes also appear again in Gorod Krovi, Revelations, Origins, Blood of the Dead, and Tog der Tod. However, in an interview, Treyarch said some of the new developers just didn't know the eye colors meant anything, and so they just chose red, so it doesn't mean anything. But even after this, like we just mentioned, red eyes have came back many times since, and there's even a story that takes place in Buried, because in the year 1885, a miner went down into the buried mines where element 115 was buried, and when he came back up, he was a zombie with red eyes. Buried and Mob of the Dead both take place long before Samantha and Richtofen would be in control of the zombies, so therefore there would have to be a third entity in control, being none other than Lucifer.
Maybe next time. What it said was, I believe it was maybe next time. Some demon voice said that, and then the numbers changed to 666, and 666 is commonly known as the number for the devil.
Real life Menendez. Last year, a man named Bassem Hussein would go viral due to his appearance looking just like Menendez and also talking about similar political issues, criticizing a government just like what Menendez does in game.
Wants you to believe that they are the victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He fucks you up and then he makes you think it's your fault.
Los Angeles was the flagship of their absurd materialism. So I destroyed it. They thought I wanted to kill the president. Doña Presidente, I could have buried you 1,000,000 times over.
I mean, hey, 2025 is right around the corner. Let's see what happens. Mile High Club. When you say the words Mile High Club, most people assume you're talking about two people in an airplane. But in Call of Duty 4, there's a mission that you unlock after beating the campaign, in which you only have 1 minute to complete the entire thing, and this involves you jumping onto a plane, killing everybody, saving the president, and jumping off of it. Yes, you only have 1 minute to do all of this. So because of this already difficult premise, the mission became notorious for being one of, if not the hardest mission in Call of Duty history. But when paired with veteran difficulty, it becomes near impossible, and in order to get the achievement Mile High Club, you have to do it on veteran difficulty. Now, I actually did attempt to get this achievement, and let me tell you, it was not fun. But eventually, I was able to do it, and it took me about an hour to complete it. But maybe I'm just like that, because some people say it took them like 5 years to do it, so try it at your own risk. Ray gun every time glitch. The ray gun is probably the most famous weapon in Call of Duty history. So naturally, as kids and even adults, we all want to know how to get it every time in every game straight out the mystery box. And where could we learn such information? Well, YouTube. A series made by a man named US Cobra would go viral, and each and every new Call of Duty game he would make a video teaching us how to get the ray gun every time. Now of course it never worked, but the videos are legendary, and be honest, you tried this at least once. I know you did. Noriega lawsuit. We talked about him a bit earlier, but Manuel Noriega is a pretty important character in Black Ops 2. However, he was actually a real person. He was the leader of Panama and also one of the most notorious drug traffickers of all time. But in 2014 he actually tried to sue Activision for the false portrayal of him in the game. Of course, it wasn't successful, but I mean, the man was locked up. It was worth a shot. Karma and Harper glitch. In Black Ops 2, there are multiple endings to its campaign, and in order to get the best one, you are forced to kill Harper, because if you don't, then Karma will die, and she is the key to stopping Menendez's cyber attack. But if I'm being real, after Harper dies, the game becomes kinda dull, since you don't really have any other cool people fighting with you. So why can't I just have Harper and Karma both alive to have fun and to get a good ending, man? Oh wait, I can. Yes, there's actually a way to have them both survive, and this is done by initially not killing Harper and finishing the game normally. Then after you're done, you can go ahead and select the rewind mission option back to the Achilles Veil mission, clicking yes, but then not starting the mission right away, instead going back to the menu and clicking rewind mission on Achilles Veil a second time and playing out the mission this time. You have to kill Harper here, and then for some reason when you finish the game, Karma and Harper will actually both be alive. ZM_Paris. The file name for the map Moon was originally and still can be found as ZM_Paris or Zombie_Paris. Treyarch was planning to release the final Black Ops 1 Zombies map in Paris. However, it was later reworked into Moon, which was still a great map, but you can't help but wonder what it would have looked like killing zombies on the Eiffel Tower while eating baguettes. Raven the Redwoods. Infinite Warfare Zombies was overlooked in its time, but it was actually pretty good. Well, At least some of it was. Zombies in Spaceland was obviously great, but a map people seem to forget about is Rave in the Redwoods, which is one of the craziest experiences of all time. I mean, you start out in a cabin with only melee weapons. It kind of feels like it's Friday the 13th, especially when you go out back to the lake and stuff. You can even take drugs and start hallucinating. We're out here killing some monkeys, glowing people. It makes me want to take LSD. Captain Price's grandfather. Captain Price is one of the most iconic characters of all time, but similar to the Crosby family, the Price family also runs deep in the military, because Captain Price's grandpa served alongside us in World War II in both Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 2. He was part of the British SAS, but his plane was then shot down. However, he somehow survived and was taken as a prisoner by the Germans until we find him in the game. Then he gives us a ride on a boat. He is truly a captain, and we go infiltrate a German ship.
Dürfte ich wohl Ihre Papiere sehen?
But unfortunately, in this mission, Captain Price somehow dies midway through, but we don't see it, and instead we're just told it at the end of the mission.
We lost the captain. Damn, he was a very fine man. Let's get the hell out of here.
The Weeping Nuketown Angels. Nuketown is the most famous map ever created, but it's also home to some of the most creepiest Easter eggs in the series. For example, if you shot all the mannequin heads off in BO1 and BO2, you could unlock the TV Easter egg. However, Black Ops 3 took this to a whole another level, because when you shoot all the heads of the mannequins in under 2 minutes, they come to life and start chasing you as if they're zombies and they can kill you. But even worse than that, if you do that same thing again, but this time only shoot their arms off, then they will turn again into zombies. Instead, this time they will only move when you're not looking at them. This is a reference to a monster in the Doctor Strange series, which is why this is called the Weeping Angels Easter egg. It is horrifying. I mean, you're looking at them, everything's fine, turn your back, and boom, they're right there. Black Ops 2 credits. At the end of the BO2 campaign, if you wait until the credits are over, you'll see different people including Karma, Crosby, Mason, and even Reznov. Except Mason actually realized Reznov isn't there. Enough of that though, because it's now time to move into Tier 3, and this is when things start to get a lot weirder and disturbing, so make sure you buckle in. Dead cows. Throughout Call of Duty's entire history, for some reason, there have always seemed to be dead cows, mutated cows, other types of cows. So why have there been dead cows everywhere since the very first Call of Duty? Is this just a background set piece, or is there something deeper going on here? Even in the credits of COD 1 and 2, we can see the developers saying no cows were harmed in the making of this game. We see them come back in COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, then in Black Ops 1, they were featured in Dead Ops Arcade. This time they're alive though, and they stomp you to death. So some theories for Call of Duty, including cows in nearly every game, are that it's a reference to the movie Saving Private Ryan, where there's a scene that they run into some big fat cows, and there were other war movies that also included cows around that time. So what probably happened was they included this in the first COD as a reference to these movies, and they just kept the Easter egg alive in every single game moving forward because it's a cow and it's funny. Haha. Richtofen is the beloved zombies character, Edward Richtofen, may actually be, not straight. You see, some of the things this guy says is diabolical.
There's a light switch. Oh, I think I found a lever. Perhaps this will turn on the light.
Oh, let go. That's not a lever. Richtofen!
I will blow off only the wee little bits first. So sharp. So long. Oh, it is so big and long.
If I had designed this, it would have sucked and not blown.
However, despite the endless amount of sus clips, many people say that Richtofen isn't actually gay. He's just a sociopath who is also sadistic, which basically means he gets aroused by inflicting pain or degrading others. So no, he's not actually touching Dempsey's little lever, but instead degrading or inflicting pain, which just turns him on. Yeah, that's probably worse than being gay. The Secret Old Lady. Over 14 years ago, when Modern Warfare 2 was released, there was a video that came out around that time titled Modern Warfare 2 Secret Old Lady, What the F? And the video has gained over 18 million views. Take a look for yourself.
And this door here, right, you're going to put one in the top corner, 2 there, 3 in that corner, and 4 in that corner. And then drop a flash grenade, stun grenade, whatever. And then check it out. Hey! How neat is that?
Well, you're not bothering now, you're not?
No!
Go away.
Wait, no. And no matter what she does, she always gets you, like, check it out.
Oh, angry lady.
Now obviously it's not a real Easter egg, and it was just a recording that they were playing on the TV that had the lady edited in the background. I mean, this man's controller wasn't even on, but nonetheless many people tried it and failed, but this is definitely a part of COD history. This Easter egg still lives on to this day and also gave a lot of 7-year-old children some nightmares. Mason is alive. With Black Ops 6 around the corner, Treyarch essentially confirmed that Alex Mason is actually dead, because if you don't remember, we are actually able to save Mason in BO2. However, the developer said that the canon ending was Alex Mason is no longer with us. But I'll tell you why this may not actually be the case, and Treyarch may be saying this to throw us off. So they say that he is officially KIA in BO6, but that would make sense considering he doesn't show up until 30 years later, so of course the people in the game believe he's dead. This, alongside the premise of the game, which we've seen in the trailers and teasers, which is all talking about how to not trust the government, the truth lies, the world is corrupt, it could be pointing and saying that Mason is dead in BO6 because nobody knows. However, he's actually alive and the developers are lying to us, because as you know, the truth lies. Is it far-fetched? Nah, Mason is alive, okay? You just gotta believe. I mean, they'll probably put him in the item shop as a skin for like 2,000 COD points. Chernobyl, a city in northern Ukraine named Chernobyl, as well as a nearby one by the name of Pripyat. And yes, Chernobyl is the name of a city. The reason it's famous is due to the fact that in 1986, it would be home to the worst nuclear disaster ever. A poorly designed experiment would go about as wrong as it could, and after violating safety guidelines, it would set off a series of explosions and radioactive material would spew into the atmosphere. And the nearby city of Pripyat would be forced to evacuate, and in Call of Duty it's
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Our so-called leaders prostituted us to the West, destroyed our culture, our economies, our honor.
We get to visit Chernobyl in COD 4 as Captain Price in what might just be one of the greatest COD missions ever. But as we look around, we can still see the remnants of what used to be a place filled with innocent people, kids, dogs, the buildings that used to serve everyone who lived here. But now it's just a horrific scene that shows us the dangers of nuclear power. Global thermonuclear war. And speaking of nuclear, a cut game mode from Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer called Global Thermonuclear War was a game mode in which each side would fight to capture a tactical nuke in the middle of the map, and once the team had captured it, a 40-second countdown would start, and if you didn't get to the enemies fast enough, you would get nuked. Bitch. I would like to see this game mode come back. I mean, who doesn't love to drop some big, girthy, juicy nukes? The astronaut's name. On the zombies map Moon, there is an insane Easter egg that has to do with the cosmonaut zombies. These guys wear spacesuits and float around chasing you, but if they get to you before you're able to kill them, then they will touch you in an inappropriate way and take your perks. But their names actually change every time. If you play on solo, then it'll just be the random name of a Treyarch employee or a celebrity. However, if you play with one or more people with you, then the astronaut's name will be the name of someone on the host's friends list. So if one of your friends pop up mid-game, then this is why. And there's also been some stories where someone's friend dies, but their Xbox profile name shows up when playing Moon, so you can see your dead friends in-game one last time. Man, that got dark. Tim Hansen podcast. Timothy Hansen, one of the biggest zombies YouTuber out there. He's played alongside Noah J, Mr. Telexify, Crazy Rabbit, and everyone in between. However, Tim would announce that he was not going to buy the Call of Duty game that was coming out, being Vanguard, because he didn't want to support the trash games. And that turned out to be a good decision. That game was ass. But then in late 2022, Tim Hansen would start his own podcast called Tim Time. And I actually watched a lot of these podcast episodes, but when he announced that he would be returning to zombies in early 2023, he would private all of the Tim Time videos. And this subject was actually one of the first videos I ever made on my channel, and it was terrible.
Hey, let's go play some Zetsubo.
This is why you will never be the greatest, Tim. I will be playing Zetsubo until I'm 93 years old. You should have looked at how Joe Rogan switched from when he was doing zombies into the podcast. Peter McCain restart. Peter McCain was a man who worked at Doris and when he was then sent by our boy from earlier, Cornelius, otherwise known as the Avogadro before he became the Avogadro. He sent Peter on a spy mission to investigate what Group 935 was doing with all the dangerous element 115, but he was quickly outed as a spy and captured. However, when the zombie invasion happened, he was actually able to escape, and Cornelius told him to meet up at the Rising Sun facility called Shinonuma. But unfortunately, Peter's parachute was caught and stuck in the roof, which then caused him to hang to death. Already a sad story in in itself, but in Word at War, if you make Peter do a little jiggle by throwing a grenade and then run into him in the perfect position, then your entire game will restart no matter what. And it's actually pretty creepy. It's unknown whether this is a bug, a glitch, maybe an Easter egg, but damn is it scary. Just promise me, Peter, you won't end up like Peter Griffin. Okay, what am I even saying? Hudson's betrayal. Jason Hudson was our CIA handler who fought alongside us in Black Ops 1 and 2. However, a series of clues would lead us to eventually find out that he was a mole, but not in the way you think. We talked about it a bit earlier, but in Menendez's compound we find some CIA documents, and when interrogating Kravchenko in Afghanistan, he gets defensive.
He even has people in the CIA.
Bullshit! This guy's fucking with us.
The fuck are you doing? Menendez told me you must suffer. You face piece of shit.
Of course, we later learn Hudson orders us to kill Nexus target, which was Alex Mason, but this is because Hudson was kidnapped alongside Mason's son, so he did it to save David's life. But the weird part about all this is that back in Afghanistan, David and him were obviously not in Menendez's custody, so why does Hudson get so agitated at Kravchenko saying there's a mole 3 years earlier? There's a few possible explanations, one being that he got mad because he simply believes Kravchenko is just trying to turn the CIA against each other and is just spewing nonsense, especially when we consider the fact that his own best friend Alex Mason was one of the brainwashed double agents, so maybe Hudson has a soft spot for this. Either this or Hudson was actually a mole the entire time and he was the one feeding Menendez all the intel including the documents. The only question would be, why would Hudson do this when he's been with us for decades and has dedicated his life to America? So I don't think that's likely. So obviously Kravchenko isn't talking about Hudson here because it's way before the events of Panama. Then that means either Kravchenko was lying or someone else in the CIA was a mole. I'm looking at you, anonymous CIA man. I think it's you, Satanic Goats. In Modern Warfare, if you complete a series of events on the map Livestock, which includes shooting a bunch of different teddy bears around the map, once you get to the last ones in the barn and once destroyed, a pentagram will appear and it will summon evil satanic goats. And the goats kill you and eat you alive. Joseph Allen was a traitor. Going back to the OG Modern Warfare 2, everyone remembers the infamous No Russian mission where you play as Private Joseph Allen. And in this highly controversial mission, you go undercover within a group of Russian terrorists as you proceed to shoot innocent people in an airport, which has many people wondering, why didn't Joseph Allen just shoot them instead and prevent this from happening? Because later in the mission, of course, Makarov kills us since he knew we were a spy and leaves our body to be found and America to be blamed. But in this theory, it explains that Joseph Allen was actually convinced by Makarov's goals and decided to follow him, betraying the US, and it would explain why he didn't just gun everybody down by shooting them in the back. I mean, he could have saved hundreds of lives that day. Either that or he was just really committed into the act of being undercover and so he just had to go along with it. I mean, for that performance, he would have won an Oscar for sure. Fareed was just a pawn. In Black Ops 2, we have an undercover agent named Fareed who is working for us, and he's our main intel guy on what Menendez is planning to do since he is very close to him. However, in the mission Achilles Veil, we get to play as him and straight away Menendez says that there is a traitor nearby.
We're almost ready. We are ready.
Yes.
The Americans are coming, Fareed. There's a traitor in our midst.
But how? Who?
It matters not.
And later on, Menendez asked us to kill Harper to prove our loyalty because Salazar was actually working for Menendez and he was telling him everything he needed to know, including the fact that Fareed was actually with the CIA.
You betrayed us, Fareed. And for what? To those you served, your life means nothing!
Menendez tells Fareed as he is about to shoot him that to those you serve, being the US government, his life doesn't mean anything to them. And he may be right, because when we land at the scene where Farid died, no one mentions his death or his name. And even Menendez himself didn't even really care, as even if we do kill Harper, he'll just leave us there and tells us that victory is not measured by losses, but by gains. And lastly, in the ship scene where Salazar betrays us, Farid dies no matter what, even if he didn't die by Menendez earlier. So this man's fate was decided to be nothing more than just a guy who gave information and was just trying to be used by both sides. BO1 Suicide Animation. We all know and love the perk Second Chance Pro. Well, at least I do. It appears in many different Call of Duty games, and the way it works is that basically you would have normally just died, but now when you're shot, you go down, pull out a pistol, and if you're able to survive, a teammate can come and revive you before you bleed out. However, let's say you don't want to wait around for a teammate or something, because let's be honest, they never revive you anyways. You can just hold X to take the coward's way out and die. But when you do this, nothing happens, you just scream and die because the animation for the person shooting themselves was actually cut from the game. If you have access to the Black Ops 1 beta, it's still able to be seen, and honestly it's a lot better than whatever we got. Treyarch decided to remove it because they thought it was going to be too brutal or violent, even though I mean I think there's worse stuff than that. Look man, it's a cool animation, okay? Add it back in the game. Misty is Dempsey's daughter. This is one of the oldest theories in zombies, being that Misty is Tank Dempsey's daughter. This is due to the fact that Dempsey is confirmed to have a daughter in game. However, people quickly disproved it because the timelines just didn't match up whatsoever. I mean, Dempsey's time was in World War I and II, so it seemed like this was a closed case for sure. But when Misty returned in Black Ops 4's Tog der Toten, some of Misty's voice lines would end up reigniting this theory.
That headshot was for you, Daddy.
I may not like.
That headshot was for you, Daddy.
Although many people just say that Treyarch did this as fan service, others say it's confirmed that she is Dempsey's daughter. Or maybe there's multiple meanings of the word daddy. Yeah, let's just move on. Here we are in tier 4 of the Iceberg. It's about to get cold. Brrr. Operation Cherry Disc. This was a joint special mission by MI6 in which they would go in to eliminate Jason Hudson, Gregory Weaver, and Alex Mason. It was supposed to take place in 1978, with the primary target being Mason due to the fact that the SAD deemed him to be mentally unstable and a threat to national security. Weaver and Hudson were tagged as targets alongside Mason because of their endorsement of him. However, the mission was dissolved as long after 1978, Hudson, Mason, Woods, and Weaver are all still alive and even appear in Black Ops 2, still working for the CIA. The man that was supposed to be the leader of this operation was named Ryan Jackson, who was warned to not let anyone in the CIA know about this mission because Hudson and Mason were well liked and had a lot of friends in the division, so it would obviously not be a very popular decision. They were also said to recruit a Soviet double agent by the name of Christina, who was already ordered by the GRU, which is the Russian version of the CIA, to kill Alex Mason. So because she was already on a mission to kill Mason anyways, the CIA thought it would be good to recruit her. And we can also find out from a message from Hudson to Mason about how they went to go to hide in Johannesburg with Dr. Clark's brother around the same time. Moral of the story, never trust your own government. Man, after all they'd done, I mean Mason and Hudson literally saved America when they destroyed the number station. Yet MI6 was still going to do an undercover secret operation to assassinate Mason, Weaver, and Hudson. And you know who else is in MI6? Park, baby, give me a chance. All gillied up ghosts. In the mission that takes place in the Chernobyl power plant, which we talked about earlier, we play as Captain Price back when he was just a boy under our mentor, Captain Macmillan. The mission is called All Gillied Up because we wear ghillie suits that help us blend in with the grass and set up our shots. However, after we walk around the dog eating a man, you enter a room in which you will begin to hear some faint laughing. Pretty soon after that, you'll begin to hear some people screaming as Macmillan says,
"Move up. Look at this place. 50,000 people used to live in the city. Now it's a ghost town. Never seen anything like it. Fuck.
Some people say that one of the voices heard while Macmillan is talking is actually trying to scream the word help. So it seems the spirits of Chernobyl are still very active today. Menendez's sister. Have you ever wondered why Menendez hates America and big government corporations so much? Well, it's actually for a very dark and sad reason. When they were just children, a couple of Americans set the Menendez household into flames on purpose in order to burn down the building and collect $11,000 of insurance money.
It was taken from me. Do you know what that feels like yet? An American torched the warehouse for insurance money. $11,000. That was the value they placed on her life. She was the reason for me to live. What about you, David? What drives you? Is it me? Einstein once said that the economic anarchy of capitalism is the real source of evil. Your father and his people took Josefina from me.
And they didn't care who was in there or what would happen, and Raul Menendez was miraculously able to survive and escape the fire, saving his sister who was badly burned and now blind, barely hanging on to life. Then later on, when the CIA invaded Menendez's compound along with Noriega and soldiers of Panama, Menendez would go into a rage after a soldier hit his sister, and he would kill anyone in his way after he was captured to make it all the way back to Josefina. However, Frank Woods, enraged with what Menendez did to him in Angola, would throw a grenade which would end up accidentally killing Menendez's sister. Black Ops Declassified. And speaking of Menendez, Black Ops Declassified is a game which takes place before Black Ops 2 that shows the rise of the Menendez cartel, along with us actually getting to meet Menendez's father. And yeah, we also kill Menendez's dad as well. But the reason you may have never even heard about this game is because, yeah, it's garbage, but also it was only released on the PlayStation Vita in 2012. It was only given 6 months of development from Activision, and the game was so bad it was basically wiped from existence. It was a 2.5-hour campaign with no zombies mode, and it's not even considered a real Call of Duty game despite being canonically official. But yeah, if you've never played this game, we actually get to meet Menendez as a youngin', and we kill his father as he gets away in a truck because we were told not to kill him. The US could have literally killed him right here, but we didn't. Oh my gosh. The Unmarked Man. Before the release of what would be the worst Call of Duty story ever, Black Ops 3, a seemingly disformed guy was being experimented on in one of the teasers and earned himself the nickname The Unmarked Man. And what's crazy about this is a Twitter account would seemingly pop up out of nowhere with the name Unmarked Man, with the account's first follower being Treyarch, with a seemingly ominous shadow standing alone in a room. This account only had one tweet, being, "The incident changed everything." One of the theories was that in this trailer, the man was getting memories implanted in him, and as we know, this is kind of what happened in the Black Ops 3 campaign, but it was actually never truly confirmed who the Unmarked Man was, and it may remain unsolved forever. Verrückt Voices. Released in World at War, Verrückt is by far the scariest and most disturbing zombies map ever created, and it's not even close. It takes place in an abandoned insane asylum with dark rooms, floors wiped with blood, as well as just a building that is falling apart. However, the creepiest thing is the voices you will hear throughout the map. People screaming, crying, begging for help. You can't even take a You can't even take a shower. These voices are said to be the people that once used to roam the halls of this asylum. People with mental illnesses, people being experimented on. Their haunting screams still live on all these years later, and now they're zombies. Semper Fi. First mission of World at War is called Semper Fi, which takes place in the Gilbert Islands. You play as Private Miller against the Japanese army, and it starts off with you being captured by an Asian man. You see your brothers being tortured and killed, but right when you're about to meet your end, the boy Roebuck saves you and you make your way through the island. However, there's actually a theory that the man you play as, being Private Miller, was actually hallucinating, and this first mission of World at War was not real at all. Private Miller was actually having a nightmare the day before the crew set up and headed to Peleliu Island, since Miller was terrified from the stories he'd heard from the other POWs captured by the Japanese, and this assignment on Peleliu Island would be his first encounter with the Japanese, leaving him terrified. Now, what is the evidence to support this? Well, there isn't much, but one piece people have brought forward is the fact that in the game files, there was actually a voice line of Roebuck telling Miller, "You ready to shoot some Japs for the first time?" And why would Roebuck be saying this if it wasn't Private Miller's first time? And people say this cut voice line could only be found in 2008 when the game first came out. So maybe us as Private Miller were actually hallucinating the entire time. The apple. For some reason, Call of Duty has always had a fascination with apples, specifically the red apple. Going all the way back to Call of Duty Finest Hour, we can find this big ass apple out here in the battlefield. It's enough food to keep Queso fed for a whole week. And then in Black Ops 1, there was a viral video of a man being protected by bullets due to a floating apple on a table.
I mean, this game is ruined. Are you kidding me? How do you allow the floating apple to get into the game? I mean, there's going to be people putting down tactical insertions over here.
So when Treyarch released their DLC map we talked about earlier being Hangar 18, they would end up adding a floating electrifying apple as a reference to this video. Nikolai is Chernov's brother. Do you remember Chernov from the World at War campaign? He was the man alongside us who, despite having to kill German soldiers, he always wanted to show mercy. And he also kept a journal that he used to write in.
No one will ever read this!
But unfortunately, Chernov would eventually meet an end.
He is suffering. You know what you should do.
Move inside!
Take a look at Chernov though. Does he look familiar? Because it's actually the same player model as Nikolai from the Zombies mode. And some theorize that they are brothers who both fought in World War II, and this could explain why they look so similar. Or maybe they just took assets from the campaign for Zombies mode, but it's possible, man. Chernov could be his brother. Ted. Everyone's favorite bus driver, Ted, is a seemingly nice guy who wants to get you to your destination. But many don't know that this man is still that Nick. Because if you make him mad, he can kick you off the bus and will also flame your ass.
Keep fucking with me. See if I don't crash this bus and kill you all. Your privileges have been fucking revoked.
Swamp monster. In the map Zetsubo no Shima, if you are able to make it all the way to round 50, a seemingly distant figure known as a swamp monster or distant monster will appear. It's outside the map and difficult to see, but there's actually a 3D model of some sort of Cthulhu creature out there once we reach round 50, and there's even some noises that start to happen as well. Takio was violated by a spider. Yes, our boy Takio was actually railed by a spider. Or in other words, he was yeah, this one's pretty insane. Basically, the spiders on Zetsubo no Shima are obviously a rare species of spiders, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you see it, they are going extinct. Their homeland was destroyed, their species is dying, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that they are no longer able to reproduce with one another, and therefore they will be gone from this planet in no time. However, what they can do is take male humans and reproduce with them. Yeah, it gets even weirder. Not only can they force humans to reproduce with them, but in the Zetsubo trailer, it's theorized that Division 9 forces Takio 1.0 to reproduce with the mother spider. Some evidence alluding to this is that we of course find Takio 1.0 as a thrasher who is now being experimented on after being taken to the cave. And could Widow's wine be a sexual innuendo from the spider? Because if not, then what else would it be? I mean, what liquid is Widow's wine?
Widow's wine, you're mine.
But it is now time to go deeper. Deeper than Jason Love inside your mama. So deep into this iceberg that the things you're about to hear may not even make any sense and you might need to use the bathroom. But one thing's for sure, there's always a bit of truth in everything, so prepare to be terrified in Tier 5. Peter's Grave. Back in the days of COD Mobile on Shinonuma, if you were to open up every door on the map, you would receive the message, all areas unlocked, now find the grave. You would then receive a slightly better melee weapon being the shovel, which you could go and then find the grave of Peter McCain, being the man we talked about earlier who hung to death after his parachute got caught in the roof. You can use your shovel to dig up his grave, and once you do, you will receive a free Wonder Waffle. I guess my boy Peter turned into a wonder weapon, sentient AI. Some people have started to say that the AI in Call of Duty is starting to come to life. There was a thread of people who have said that in the newer CODs, the AI in their game would actually talk in the text chat and make conversation with them, asking things like their name, their phone number, where they were from, which obviously creeped out players since bots shouldn't be asking questions like this. And then later on, the same AI would end up calling them from a no-caller ID number, only whispering the words hello and how are you from a robotic voice. If this actually happened, that's creepy. Russian experiments. In the Call of Duty franchise, Russia, or the Soviet Union, has been known to run dark and twisted experiments on whoever they could. For example, the Nova 6 gas during World War II was tested on their own soldiers without a heads-up notice, just killing off everybody in order to test out this new gas. But another example would be the Russian sleep experiment found in Black Ops 3, because some say that in one of these teasers, that is exactly what is happening. The evil doctor antagonist of the game was testing a new technology for Russia that would basically see what would happen if these people were equipped with a chip that would never allow them to go to sleep. Black Ops 3 can actually be pretty interesting at times. Too bad the campaign was garbage. Secret Hitler boss fight. There was an urban legend back in the early days of zombies in which people would say if you were to reach round 100 on a German map like Nacht or Verrückt, you would actually run into a secret Hitler zombie boss fight. The reason this theory became popular was no one could refute it, and it made sense that there would be some crazy Easter egg on round 100. Back in 2008, 2009, people could barely dream of even getting to round 20, 30, 40, let alone 100. So therefore, with no way of knowing, people seemingly believed in the Hitler boss fight. However, when people started to post their round 100s, talk about their games, the Hitler Easter egg would die down, and it was of course proved as a hoax. But that hasn't stopped other zombie maps made in the workshop to incorporate this urban legend into their maps, which include Hitler boss zombies that are genuinely scary. I mean, look at that mustache. JFK voiced himself. John F. Kennedy, former president of the United States, has some memorable appearances in Call of Duty. However, some have said that it wasn't just some guy doing a voice impression, but rather JFK actually voiced himself. Yeah, let me explain. Obviously, JFK died way before the production of the first Call of Duty game, but there's actually been a few theories on who really voiced him. Of course, you can just search up the voice actor, but others have seemingly refused this and have brought up a number of theories. The first of which being that they actually took old voice clips of JFK talking and added those into the game along with the voice acting. And this could have been done to maybe immerse the player more within the world of the game. Another explanation was that they actually got JFK's relative to come in and do the voice lines in order to have a close connection and as close as a voice to JFK as they could, and they lied about having another voice actor because his relative didn't want to make headlines. And lastly, some have brought up that JFK didn't actually die that day and he voiced his own lines in Call of Duty to show the world secretly he is still alive. Kids, please get off of Reddit. The Entity. In Modern Warfare 3, there is a creature or thing, or to best describe it, entity of some sort that begs you to help them and haunts you along your journey. And then at the end of the game, you're forced to fight and destroy the entity. But it's unclear about who this entity really is. Some have theorized it is Samantha Maxis, or a collection of little kids who were trapped in the dark ether, or that maybe nobody cares because nobody plays MW3 zombies. You are Reznov. This is a theory that in Black Ops 1, you weren't actually playing as Alex Mason the whole time, but rather Reznov was there, and in fact, you, the player, were actually Reznov. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Voices of the Nuke. In Call of Duty 4's infamous nuke scene in which you are playing as Sergeant Jackson, you and your crew go down with the ship as a nuke goes off, killing thousands of people. You actually survive the crash and see the aftermath of the explosion as you wake up near a playground. However, you can actually hear people talking on the radio about what has happened.
Information detected. Fallout predicted within a radius of 10.4 miles. Epicenter located at N05880. Personnel within the zone are ordered to evacuation. Contamination sensors are being established at this time and will be should be operational within 2 hours.
It sounds like they were picking up Jackson's signal, which means that if he would have lived for a little longer, he could have perhaps gotten evacuated out and survived. The last thing Jackson hears before he dies is the whispers, screams, and words of little children. It's unknown whether these were people who survived the blast and he could hear them, or they're just voices in Jackson's head, hearing his own children talking to him in his final moments. Wailing in Black Ops Wii. In Black Ops 1, there's a multiplayer map named Radiation. However, one person over 10 years ago came out and said he had some pretty weird experiences on it while he played BO1 for the Wii. He states, "A couple of years ago, my sister and I were playing Black Ops. I was doing core team deathmatch and the map was Radiation. I was sniping/camping in the 2-story building in the corner of the map where the spawn is at the beginning of the match. It was relatively calm, but then a creepy noise came out of nowhere. It was some sort of long, low, almost like a wailing sound. It was sort of creepy, and my sister decided to email Treyarch about it to see if they would send us free stuff just for emailing them. Treyarch didn't even reply. Lately, I decided to play Call of Duty again one night while I was bored and alone. It happened again. In the same place on the same map. Then later still, I was playing in jungle and the same thing happened." This post comes from r/creepygaming made over a decade ago. And he made a different one in which he states, "I was walking through there and this creepy music started playing out of nowhere. It wasn't the normal one you usually hear. I had never heard it before, and I think this was the only time it happened. It was sort of like a long, ghostly, banshee wail. But what's even crazier than this is that another person only 3 years ago also made a post about the same thing titled Creepy Wailing Noises Black Ops Wii. His story goes, "When I was about 9 years old, it happened to be nighttime. It was late. I was playing multiplayer mode. The match was starting. I could hear the countdown before you got into the match, but then suddenly, my game crashes. For a while, I can't get out of the lobby or go to the Wii menu. I was so confused. Right as I was about to reboot my console, I started to hear a lot of strange and creepy noises. I remember hearing like wailing noises, weird music, and weird voices. I remember being alone at the time. Then I told my mom about it, and she told me I shouldn't be playing those types of games. I didn't play again for months because I was afraid of that happening to me again." These are two people who experienced the same exact thing on the same Black Ops Wii, and these were 7 years apart from each other. Could there be something sinister going on in the Black Ops Wii version? Because I'm telling you, two people saying that this happened on the same version, being the Black Ops Wii, they both use the same exact words to describe it, being wailing, creepy noises, creepy music they've never heard. I think there might need to be an investigation in the Black Ops 1 Wii version. Real life zombie experiments. A lot of people actually believe that the Germans were trying to make zombies in World War II. According to Salon.com, quote, "The Nazis did in fact have teams of researchers hunting for supernatural treasures, religious relics, and entrances to a magical land of telepathic fairies and giants. Hitler's interest in the occult and the interest of many of the well documented. Psychics and astrologers were employed to attack the enemy and plan tactics based on the alignment of the stars. The Nazis tried to create super soldiers using steroids and drug cocktails in a twisted interpretation of Nazi's yeah, I don't know how to say that. And I kid you not, there's another 10 pages going deeper on this topic, so I don't know, man. Zombies could have been real." Lee Ross, CIA. Lee Ross was the project director for the Infinite Warfare Zombies mode. However, there's actually a theory that he was a former CIA agent. Yes, Lee Ross was part of the CIA before he started working on video games and used a connection in order to be the creative director for Infinite Warfare. And damn, Spaceland was pretty good, so he did a nice job, even though he may have been MK Ultra. Alex Mason's date. Do you remember this blonde baddie we see at the start of the game when we are visiting the Pentagon in order to meet JFK? Well, it turns out her and Mason actually went on a date but it didn't go very well. So obviously she's eyeing us, but we're too busy type shit. And it was actually Weaver who tried to rizz her up, but this is when he had just lost his eye, so yeah, he got rejected. But after that, he laid it up for Mason, returning the favor that he did for saving his life, and she said that she actually did like Alex, so Weaver set them up for a date. However, on that date, Mason was just talking about Reznov and the numbers the whole time, since this was at the peak of his brainwashing. So obviously she just couldn't see the brilliant vision of Alex Mason then, and she told Weaver he didn't need a date, he needed some help. And then Mason tells Weaver that the date actually went great, and she's probably about to file a restraining order. Infinity Ward developer was a murderer. This is a theory that one of the developers who worked on Call of Duty 2 was actually charged for murder, as one of the people who worked on COD 2 would mysteriously disappear and no one was able to find out why, because when he first joined the development team, he was actually under a fake name and a fake alias and a fake life. And one day he would just stop coming to work or replying to anybody, and one person recognized him on the local news station and he was being charged for murder, and Infinity Ward was not aware of this since the man had changed his identity. He was still a free man for nearly 2 years after he had committed these crimes, and he was working on Call of Duty 2 with Infinity Ward. But that's just a theory. Look guys, I told you this Iceberg was gonna be bizarre, and hopefully it lived up to those expectations. And let me know if you want to see more videos like this in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. Have a great day, man. God bless. Thank you guys.